Alright, so the second game is the Dungeon Crawler that you guys want. And it's a cooperative game where what we're trying to do is defeat the dungeon. And the way we do that is we're going to roll some dice here to determine what the enemy is. And we have to try and defeat it using our deck. So it's deck building, dungeon crawling, co-op game. And it's pretty cool. There is a lot to it and there's a lot of setup. For one, we have essentially three piles here. We have a discard pile, we have an action pile, and an XP pile, and we'll also even have an item pile later. And what we've both gone ahead and done is the action pile has the numbers ace through 6 in it for rank. Also adding a king, queen, and a jack. 10 of these cards were randomly removed and put in the XP pile. The XP pile has it in everything else except for one of our suits, which for me was the clubs, and for my wife it was the diamonds. And this is going to be our loot pile. This is what happens when we defeat an enemy. So let's just kind of talk this game through and what's going on here. So we each chose a character. There's 4 characters to choose from, your typical D&D characters. You have the fighter, the wizard, the rogue, and the cleric. And they each deal with the different suits differently. The wizard gets +3 modifier to diamonds because they are intelligence. -3 to constitution, which is hearts. No additional modifiers to dexterity, which is the spades. And completely removed any possibility of doing strength-based damage, which is the clubs, because they're removed in here. The fighter is pretty much opposite of that. We also have a special ability. Mine is that after I play a spade, for my next round I can play 2 additional diamonds. For the fighter, it's that they can play a royal as an attack, and it gives them some benefits for checking loot if they do that on top of their other attack. None of that makes any sense right now, but it'll as it goes forward. We also have a certain amount of health. We start out with 10. We can heal that health, or we can remove it. If we get down to 0, that player dies and you have to move forward. There is a winner of the game. The winner of the game is who has the most loot points, which is basically you count up the rank of the loot, and that's how many points you get at the end. But the only way to win is if you actually get there. It's not the last player standing is it. So you have to work together to a point, but there is an ultimate winner, which creates this really neat dynamic, a lot like we see similar in Card Rogue. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. First we're going to go ahead and draw 5 cards from our action pile. And these are what we're going to be using to attack certain enemies. Now, the royals are not used to attack. They can be used, so basically per turn we only have one action, and that action is we play a card face down, secret to everyone else. When everyone has that, we reveal it, and that's how we affect the enemy. Hearts are going to heal you after the enemy hits, and so you won't actually do any damage to it. Diamonds are going to be my wizard attack, and so that way I'd be able to do 5, for example, +3, which would be 8. But the royals are used for a different purpose. When you play a royal, it does no damage, it doesn't heal you at all, but what it does is you can take the top card of your XP pile. Oh, and this is the other thing too. The top card of your XP pile is flipped over. So we know that this is the next card drawn. For me, a 7 of diamonds is really nice. I want to get this card and put it in my action pile. The way I do that is I can play a royal, and I can either put this at the bottom of that deck, or I can remove one of the cards in my hand and just put it at the bottom of the XP pile. So if I want to get rid of the Ace of Hearts, which in this case does me no good because I have a -3 to my constitution, so this card's dead to me. So I can either use a royal to remove this one and put it down there, or I can take this card and put it in my discard pile so that when I run out of action cards, I'll shuffle that back into my action card and it'll be part of my card set. So it's kind of deck building as you go, you get a stronger deck. So those are kind of my strategies that I want to keep in mind. I have no idea what my wife's hand is, so we'll just kind of see as we go. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to go ahead and start. So I'm going to roll this, and we rolled the 8 monster. The first thing to know is we have to deal a total of 8 damage to that monster to kill it. If we don't kill it, it is going to deal 4 damage to our health. And every monster is going to do that. Their health is always going to be determined by the dice roll. They will always deal 4 damage to us. Monsters will get leveled up for every ace that we find within the loot pile. Once we find 4 aces in here, the game's over and we win. When we find an ace, we'll just put it back in there. Otherwise, we keep the loot. So all enemies also have special abilities. So for example, this one would be like a giant ooze or something. And they would all have some special ability based on the number. We just have a table online that will let us know what that monster's special ability is. For example, an 8 would be something like, it deals no damage to us if we lose, but if we lose we have to discard an item, which right now wouldn't be too bad because neither one of us have an item. So there's really no downside to losing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and play a royal against it because I want to get this 7 into my discard pile. And I don't know what my wife's played, but because we're the only players playing, we can now flip it over to see. And she's also played a royal, clever girl. So this goes in my discard pile. She can now choose what she wants to do, and she's going to take that 9 and put it in her discard pile. I'm going to take the 7 and put it in mine, and we can flip over the next item. Alright, so now that we've done that, we can just go ahead and draw a card. We take no damage because it deals no damage to us if we lose. We just lose an item, which neither of us have. So go ahead and draw the card and then roll the dice for us. We'll see what the next enemy is. Alright, so this one's a 4, which would be like a swarm of rats, and it avoids all spade attacks. Which means I can't play the 3 of spade. It won't do me any good. But I could just take it out with my 5 of diamonds because this is going to do 8 damage to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so 3, 2, 1, flip. Alright, so she played the ace of clubs, which means that she's going to do, because she is a fighter, she's got the clubs, that's going to deal an extra 3 plus damage. So she does 4 damage to it, I do 8. Overkill, we definitely killed that monster. And we just go ahead and put our attack in the discard pile. The person who gets the loot, which is a 2 of diamond, is the person who laid down the smallest attack card. Even if that attack card is, smallest card that isn't a royal, let me say it that way. And so she laid down an ace, I laid down a 5, and so she gets the loot, and she can put it in her loot pile. There are items in here. Royal cards are items, and they have special abilities that you can either use once or they're permanently affecting you. Otherwise, right now, she has 2 points and I have 0 points. So we can just go ahead and draw the next card and roll again. Alright, so this is an 8 again, which again was that giant ooze, and we would discard an item. So I'm just going to go ahead, play that, reveal. So she played, I played the royal, which means that I can go ahead and take this card, and I don't want it. Actually, yeah, it's a 3 of heart, does me no good. I'm going to put it down there. But what she's done is she set it to 2 of clubs, which she has plus 3 to it, that's 5. But her special ability is she can play a royal to make it plus 3. And so this attack is an 8 total. Also, if she plays a royal on top of it, her card for trying to determine loot is minus 3 of what it is. So this is actually like a minus 1, and since I can't possibly play a minus 1, she gets the loot. That's especially true because I didn't play, I played a royal card and I'm forbidden from taking any of the loot. So let's go ahead and look at what this item is, just for example. So it's a queen of clubs, and the queen of clubs gives her plus 1 strength and plus 1 dexterity. so she's just become really powerful, and she just can keep that just permanently forever, and it just makes her all that much better. And so I tried to, use my ability in order to get my XP hand better, but in the end, she was the one that won out in that because of her strategy. So you can kind of see like how there's different ways of playing and how you work together, but then against each other, and how every decision really matters based on the enemy and so forth. So let's just hypothetically continue things forward. So what I'm going to do is just say, sometime we draw, oh there it is, the ace. And if we draw the ace, like I said, what we do is we just put it back in this deck, we'll shuffle this deck again, and we move on to level 2 monsters, which means that like Giant Ooze is going to turn into a werewolf or something. Level 2 monsters, they have their own abilities as well, but now if you lose, you take 8 damage. However, you also level up during that instance, and you get to gain 2 extra XP cards, and you also get to gain 5 max health. And so, but the enemy's HP is plus 5 what this roll is now. So if it was an 8, that'd mean they'd have a HP of 13 that you have to get past. So aces buff you up, but they also buff the enemies up, and that's the only way to reach the end goal. Other than that, things to keep in mind are when we completely get rid of our draw pile, we take the level number of cards times 2 from our XP hand into the discard pile with it. So because we'd be on level 2 at this point, we take 4 of those cards, put them in our draw hand, and now we shuffle this, put it back down, that's what we can draw from. And so you can see how we can kind of hone this based on that. And it's a good idea to try and get through these as much as possible, where the fighter can kind of benefit from that. So, but that's it for this kind of game. There's a lot more we can add to it. I really need to, if we want to do this, we're going to need to come up with a whole list of enemies for all level 1 through level 3, different types of items, come up with the character print and play sheet for it. And so there's a lot of work to do on this, but it could be a lot of fun working together. So if you like this game, let me know in the survey. Otherwise, also let me know in the survey, and we can move forward from there. So.